Hey guys, it's Logan again. Welcome back to another YouTube tutorial on being a computer scientist with GameMaker Studio. In this video, we're going to be talking more in depth about arrays, what happens in the memory when you're storing arrays, and how to use two-dimensional arrays, or an introduction on two-dimensional arrays at least. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how our arrays are stored in memory. So last time I showed you that you can initialize an array with a for loop like this, right? Slot I equals 0, and it'll initialize our slots from 0 to 11, or really 10, as a 0, okay? And that's one way of initializing it. Well, let's see what happens in memory when we do it like this. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a presentation. The transition might be a little odd. So we have our memory. This is our memory. Remember, memory is just basically sequential blocks of bytes. It's just an array of bytes. And we have some taken memory. I know they're all the same. Don't worry about it. And then we have some free memory that's available for our program to use still. So when we initialize an array like we were previously doing as shown, let's see what happens. What is basically happening is we're initializing these one at a time. So it's basically saying, hey, inventory 0, let's store a value at our index 0. So what our program does is look for one free space in memory to store this value. And it could take up more than 1 byte. This is just an example. Maybe this data type would take up 10 bytes, and it would have to find 10 free bytes, but we'll just break it down. It means 1 byte right now. So it finds a free byte to store our value in. And our value gets stored. And next, it moves on to the inventory 1 index. Now what happens? There's not a free space right here to store it. So our program's actually going to look for where 2 values could be stored. So our program finds 2 free contiguous spaces, and it actually has to move our original one to the space, store our new one, and now what happens? Well, now we're doing inventory 2 equals 0. We have to find an extra contiguous space. So it finds enough space for this, and then it has to move both of these over. It's basically copying them over and freeing this memory once more. And then inserting our new value, and so on and so forth. Now we've found the space. It's checking. It still has to check, is there enough free space every time we want to store a new value? Is there enough free space for this? Well, yes. Then okay, let's put it in. So is there enough free space for this? Well, yes, put it in. So what's an alternative? Well, it's pretty simple, and I kind of went over it at the end of the last video. We kind of discovered it. I haven't actually been using it like that for a while because honestly, I've just been getting back into GML in the last couple months. I've primarily been using 2D arrays. But anyway, what we could do is just say inventory 5. We want to go 0 through 5, and we want to set those values to whatever we want. We want to set them to 0. So what this does is says to GameMaker, hey, we need 5 spaces. And GameMaker finds 5 free contiguous spaces in memory, or really 6. You have 0 as one of them, so it's 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 values. And it just stores all the values one by one. Okay, and you could see that takes way less time than the other way. And imagine we were doing an array that had a size of 100. It would have to do this several times, unless, I mean, it's very possible that the first time it finds 1,000 contiguous spaces, but it still has to check each value it's adding. Is there enough space for this? Is there enough space? This does all that on our first run, and we've now initialized our array, so we don't have to use that for loop. Okay. So now that we understand this, let's go ahead and talk about two-dimensional arrays a little bit. So let's say we have our one-dimensional array. I'll kind of explain what two-dimensional arrays are in a moment. We have our one-dimensional array, and we have, let's say, our example from last video. We have our armor and sword. We have these strings placed into these different array indexes. We have indexes 0 through 6, and those all have specific values. Now, what if we wanted a sprite to represent each item? So we wanted like a sword icon to represent the sword, or an armor icon to represent the armor, or a potion icon to represent the potion. Well, we could initialize a 2D array to make this more accessible for us. And what does this mean? Well, let's say we could put slot 5 and 1. Okay, you see this has a comma inside of the brackets now. This is because we're making it two-dimensional. And what this means is this is just the initialization. So what this means is we have 6 slots over, and then, because remember 0 counts as a slot, so this is 6 spaces even though it only goes up to index 5, right? And now we also have 2 slots down. We have 0 and 1 down. So you could see we made it 2 dimensions. Think of a line as being 1-dimensional, right? And then let's say you turn it into a rectangle. It's now 2-dimensional. You've kind of flipped on a plane. And if you added another dimension to it, it'd be 3-dimensional. It's the same with this. Okay? So we say slot 5, 1 equals 0. Let's see what happens. Well, let's say we set this and then set all these values to strings, because this would really set every value in our matrix as a 0. So it adds our second dimension. And it's adding them, and I don't worry about this for now, but let's just act like all these are 0. Okay, so now you can see we have a grid, right? So we can index this grid with 0, 0, 0, 1. This is what you're doing with coordinates in GameMaker when X and Y is. X and Y is just a big grid of pixels, and you're accessing, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. You could think of it just like that. It's just a big grid, okay? So if you want to get to this spot, you just do 0, 1, because we go X first and then down, okay? Which, it's a little weird with GameMaker. Some of the functions are kind of written odd, but we go over to like a 0 and then down to a 1. So 0, 1 would be this little spot. So a little example. Let's access the value of 3, 1, okay? So we want to set the display icon of our, or a display icon variable to the value of our potion, the sprite that's holding. So all we do is do display icon equals slot 3, 1. So it goes over 3, goes down 1, and that's our new display icon now. All right, so now I've kind of gave you a basis of two-dimensional arrays. Let's go over a couple of examples. This is going to be, all right, so we're back. First, what do we want to do here? I want to actually give you guys like a real example. So I'm going to make some sprites representing icons for 3 different items. You could do the same. I'm going to do potion, armor, and sword. Okay, and I'm going to speed the video up. Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you real quick. Later, coming up in the video, it kind of gets a little bit rough for about the first 4 minutes, the next 4 minutes coming in, so kind of bear with it, and it kind of picks up after that. So I didn't have time to go back and record because I have some stuff to do today, but I wanted to get this video out. I'm actually going to be making a more in-depth video with 2D array examples, so watch out for that. Okay, so I've created my 3 icons for my armor, my sword, and my potion, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a draw event in our controller. So I'm going into my controller, I'm adding a draw event. I have no code written in this game. Let's do just draw GUI, and I'm gonna say draw sprite at whatever 100 oh, we got to give it the sprite index. So we're gonna have a variable for what image we're gonna draw to be as display icon, or just display icon, actually display icon, and subimage is going to be actually we aren't going to use display icon, we're actually going to use the subimages. I'll show you what I mean. So subimages are real values, right? So we can actually use those as indexed in our array. Well, do we want to do that? No, that won't show my example very well. We'll do display icon, and I'm actually gonna separate these icons out. So let's do -1, 100, 100. My brain wasn't going where I was wanting it to. Okay, so I'm actually gonna separate these icons out. You can copy this line of code. I'm gonna actually increase the font size quite a bit. This is on our draw GUI event. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna duplicate our icon. I'm gonna do S icon. This is gonna be my sword for the top one, armor for the second one, and we're gonna do potion for the third. Okay, so we have our different icons. You could use some sub images as well, but I kind of want to give you a demonstration more visually to you on how this would work. So we're gonna go to our sword, I'm going to delete the other 2 frames, go to our armor, delete the 2 frames besides the armor, and our potion, I'm going to delete the 2 frames besides the potion. Okay. So we're going to display our display icon at 100, 100. And let's go ahead and give our default display icon equals, what happens if we say -1? Is it, I don't know if that's going to throw an error. It probably will. Let's just do S block because I already have like a black block up here. So that's going to be my default display icon. Okay. And if I run the game now, we should see just a black icon sitting up somewhere. Okay, so this is our icon. So we just see a black icon sitting up here. Why is okay. So we're gonna go to create. All right, so now let's initialize our inventory, okay? So let's do slots. Let's give ourselves 3 slots. And so we have 3 total items we can have. And remember, we can have we're gonna have a sub image for each of those slots. So we're going to bring our matrix down by 1. So we went over 3 and then down 1. So now we have like a, well, this is actually 4. We're gonna go 2. We have a 3 by 1 grid now. I'll give you a visual here. So we have our 1, 2, 3, and then we go down and we have our 1, 2. So we have a grid basically. This is what we have after this initialization. We're just gonna give it 0 for starting. And let's fill our slots. So let's say, let's give our slot 0, 0. Remember, this is going to be our actual item string, because 0, 0 is going to be on the top row, right? So that's going to be our string. So we're going to say sword for our first index, okay? And now let's assign the sprite for that. We do slot 0, 1 equals S icon sword. All right, and I'm just going to copy paste these a few times. So that's it. And for our second one, we'll do potion. Potion. And we'll label it icon potion. And then for the final one, we'll do our armor. And the icon will be set to S icon armor. And remember, we have to change these indexes. So we have 0, 0, which is going to be these 2 values. Then we have 0, 1, and then 0, 2. Or actually, 1, 0. Wait, sorry, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0. Because we go over 2, down 1. I think I said that wrong again. Anyway, we're going to get to it. So we have our sword set at 1, 1. And then our armor set at 2, 2. So you see kind of what's going on is we just have these 0, 1 for the back of these, and we're changing our first value, our x value, to set our second value because we're going over in our x. This is just like an xy coordinate, like I said. So an xy coordinate on the screen is a matrix of pixels, basically. Each coordinate is one pair like this. Okay, so we've initialized our array, okay? And basically here, I'll kind of show what we've set. We've set a string of S, we've set a string of potion, we've set a string of armor, and then we've set our icons down here, okay? Our 3 different icons. This is what we have. And I'll kind of give you even a better visual. This is our X values, 1, 2, and then this is going to be our Y values, 0, 1. Shoot. Awesome. So this is kind of what we have set up right now. All right, so let's say we want to equip a sword and show that that's our new icon, right? So what we can do is, let's see, how do I want to show this? Let's say we want to equip a sword. So let's go ahead and comment equip. Actually, we're going to write a script called equip item. I'm going to show you a little bit about scripts at the same time. So we're going to make a new script and call it, so I just right-clicked script, made a new item, equip item. I like to use uppercase on the first letter of scripts to kind of differentiate them. And I'm going to close all my resources and kind of clean this up a bit. So Windows, close all. Okay. Alrighty. So we've made our script. Now we need to call that script. So let's go ahead and call equip item, and it should highlight yellow or an orangish, showing that you've named it right. And let's tell it which item to equip, okay? This isn't a full working inventory. There's a lot more goes into this. I'll actually do an inventory video soon. But let's say we want to equip an item, and let's pass in 0. We want to equip item 0, and I'll show you how how you guys can use constants and enumerations later on to kind of make this better. You don't have to pass in actual numbers and remember them. So let's pass in 0 for our sword, okay? That's going to pass in our slot. Let's go back to our item. Hey guys, you're about to see a little section of code that I've already written, and during the video I had already explained it, but I had to cut it out. You're going to see var item equals argument 0. What this does is take in the argument that we passed in our create event, that 0, and stores it in a new variable inside our script. So when you use arguments, argument 0, argument 1, argument 2, that means that you can it's grabbing those values that you originally put in when you called the script. So it's storing that in the item, and I use the var keyword, so at the end of the script, it frees that area in memory back up. So don't worry about it too much, just copy that line and you'll be good to go. All we do is we say our equipped. Sorry if I completely confuse you guys, I feel really bad. I don't have a lot of time, so I can't redo the video. You're gonna have to manage. All right, so we have our equipped item. We're gonna set it equal to our slot of item, because remember that's we passed in 0, and remember we have always at our first index in our grid is our string. So we have 0, 0, 0. That's always gonna be our string. We could do this for tons and tons of different items, right? And then the second index, or our number 1 index really, is going to be our sprite that we assign. So we're equipping item, and we're equipping it. We passed in the item that we want, which is our first index, which is the 0. So that's what this is. And we know that our 0 is going to be the string. So our equipped item's now going to be equal to our string. And let's say we pass in, or we need to set our display icon now. Icon, and we know that that is equal to the second index in our, well, number 1 index. It's kind of hard to explain because remember the first index is at 0, so our display icon is set to our slot of item 1. Now let's make a couple different events. First, let's make our equipped item equal just a regular string, okay? Just a blank string, because we have to initialize our variable. And I'm actually going to cut our equip item script from here, and we're going to put it inside of a keyboard event, okay? So let's say we hit spacebar. Where's our key pressed, space? Let's show him, can we still use the get, can we get input from the player? I don't remember, I haven't used this in show. We're going to use get integer, which we're going to be able to put in a number value. I gotta close all this out for you guys. So get integer, and our string is gonna be what item to equip, and that's gonna be our message to show the player, I suppose. And our default is just gonna be 0, and we're gonna say this is item to equip is going to equal this integer that the user inputs, okay? Okay, so now we just run our script, our equip item script, and we set it, and what item do we want to equip? The item that the user enters, which remember, we're just gonna be entering a random integer at the moment. So 0, 1, 2, or 2. If we go over that, it'll actually give us an array index exception, and I'll show you guys how that works. Okay, so let's go over what we did. We initialized our array set, our items, and then we initialized our initial values for our variables. And now when we hit space, it's gonna show us a message and give us the option to enter a number value. And depending on that number value, it's going to input that number value into our equip item script. And our equip item script is going to assign our equipped item to a specific value in our array, and then our display icon as the second dimension of that array. So one more thing I want to do is go to draw GUI event, and let's draw text. We're going to draw text. We'll do it at 50, 50, and it's going to be our display or our equipped item. It's going to show our equipped item as a string on the screen. Okay, so now if I hit run, it shows nothing because our string's blank at the moment, but if I hit spacebar, let's give it an integer. What item to equip? Let's say 0. That should equip our sword. There we go. So now we've set our text, our equipped item text, to our sword, and our display icon to our sword. Let's try it again. I'm going to hit space and press 2. That should be our potion, I believe. Oh no, it's our armor. And we set our icon to our armor. Now let's hit space again. We can give it 1. And now we have our potion. And you see how easy that is, how small of a script that was just to change these values. And you could increase your 2-dimension array size, and you could have your name of your item, how much healing it does, or if it's a healing item. I'm going to go through this. I'm actually going to make a really in-depth inventory example soon. So yeah, and if we enter something that we don't have, like 3, it gives us a variable index out of range because it tries to go to a spot in our grid, in our coordinate system, that doesn't exist. So it throws us an error, and you're going to get these when you use arrays. So I hope that made some sense. I'm going to do kind of a more in-depth tutorial on this stuff, and I know it was a little bumpy, but thank you guys for watching, and I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.